Welcome back to Data Innovation Summit 2019. I'm here with another panel now, and we're going to be talking machine learning and data science and its effect on the business. We were having a chat here earlier, but I'm going to continue that after you all have introduced yourselves, so please begin.
Yes, I'm Hillevi Anderkrans. I work for Microsoft, and I work in our newest business unit, Customer Success Unit. Kicked off a year ago, and our mission is to really emphasize and helping our customers to utilize all our cloud services. So at the moment we are about 2,000 people worldwide, and here in Sweden working with Azure with 30 architects. And I'm the manager for the team that is really laser focusing on data, how to bring data to live, how to bring out the value, together with people that are focused on advanced analytics, AI. And as you can assume, we are quite busy.
Cool.
Very good. So I'm Jonnie Rönnqvist. I head up Oracle's Nordic organization for analytics, data management, and machine learning. And as such, we are focusing on a very broad variety of use cases with organizations. Everything from getting that data right to making it meaningful, and then basically putting it into practice. So I guess that's what the team does.
Cool.
Okay, my name is Tomas Hermansson. Hello, Tomas Hermansson. I work as a business architect at SAP. My role is to meet the customers quite early stages, usually before they see a transformation coming, or maybe they have a business challenge in large scale or small case, and trying to get that happening. It could be transformation into a new market, it could be a new type of services, it could be leaning something we call the design thinking, try to find out new services to go to market with, for instance.
I'll bounce right back to you then. You said you want to get involved with customers early,
Yes.
perhaps before they even have certain tools in place and that kind of thing.
Definitely.
How many customers are at that stage that they don't have things in place and that they're ripe for the picking, so to speak?
It's very hard to answer the question how many, but the one I meet usually have that position.
Are they big companies or small?
Usually very big, yes.
Okay.
That will be the biggest we have in this region.
So you would say that the big companies aren't necessarily already there?
No, you're not really. Just take one example, we're not mentioning the name. They have realized that they have too large IT spending. They have a prediction to grow. How to deal with that? How to grow without increasing the IT spending?
Okay.
So that's a quite general question, but really hard to answer.
Okay.
So how to start? So that's usually one topic I brought to mind.
All right. Well, the topic for this panel is data science and machine learning and its opportunity for the business. So how do you begin that conversation with a business owner?
Yeah, so I would say, basically, if you're going to do something in this domain, somehow, if you're in the end going to put it into production, which is the ultimate goal, you have to be considering the actual goals of the company or the function or the area that you want to touch or change behaviors of or have an impact on. So I think it all starts with that business understanding and the business goal.
Okay.
We see a lot of stress around getting these platforms there and all of the data scientists to be hired, but ultimately it has to start with a meaningful end goal. And I think that is basically the starting point.
Right.
So,
is that something that a business owner would come up with, or perhaps somebody that's working in a business unit, or would it the senior leadership? Where does it really stem from?
A very good question, because it's actually a changing thing to me. We have seen the implementations of CDOs in companies and so forth to be sometimes a link between business functions and IT, business owners and the upper management, for example. Sometimes that function has a very different nature. So, but I think everybody needs to get ready. It's a discussion for the whole organization. And I think we see some exciting discussions out there in companies, who's leading and so forth. But basically, it's typically a big transformation, not only by like a word that everybody uses, but it's a serious thing. It needs to be in the
not just
DNA of
hot
the
air.
company. No, it needs to be in the DNA of the organization to make it happen. So that's
How would you position Sweden compared to other countries with regards to, we heard CDO. I haven't heard that title necessarily at the customers I've been to. Is Sweden poised and ready, or are we
No,
behind?
I think we're equal compared with Western Europe and Europe in general. I think we're doing quite well. I mean, CDOs, we have met those as well. I think we are, as a country that is used to IT and have used that for many years, and it's well implemented. We have the infrastructure, so to say, but still, it's a long way, I would say, to have companies. I mean, they are aware. When we do researches with the companies in Sweden, I mean, they all say, yes, we know that the artificial intelligence will land also in our organization. But many of them have not even started. They are trying with pilots, trying to figure out where to begin, how to do this journey. And I think that's what we need to do as their vendors, helping them on their way to really get a good start. Because that's, when you get a good start, then you have, and you're trying and you're failing and you're learning. That's the way you can go forward. So you really get the trust in the AI that you are implementing. So start small, but I mean, we all need to be there helping the companies to really take it on in a good way, I would say.
We were talking here earlier with another panel about the difference between starting small in the sense that you put things into production, but not necessarily starting small with doing toy examples that aren't meaningful. And a lot of companies get stuck that they have a center of excellence that's doing POCs indefinitely. Is that something that you see a lot in the industry?
Yes, but I can go back a bit. How to make a successful management learning example. I think start easy. Start with existing processes you already have. Make them more efficient. Go from what usually we call multi-touch to zero-touch. Make them more efficient. Why? Because you already have the data there. You have the data in good quality. You have the certain outcome. The business know what you're talking about. The business know what to expect. I think that is the biggest lesson you can learn. Start with simple tasks, low-hanging fruit to make it successful. I can take a good example on this. BASF, the world's largest chemical company we have in the world. They have a lot of invoices. And with rule-based approach to invoices, they have like a 70% zero touch, meaning that no human has to be contacted with the payment matching to invoices. With machine learning, they reached it 94%. And this might not seem that impressive, but if you take that fact that they have hundreds of thousands of payments per year, that means a lot of hands have to be involved. So going back to the question, start with the existing processes you already have. The business know what you're talking about. Don't go into the ivory tower, so to speak, to build some fancy stuff in the beginning. That will become later on.
Are they mutually exclusive? I think if we're talking about chemical companies, for example, we know that there are drug companies and that the cost of developing new drugs are in the billions. So when we're speaking about saving a couple of million here and there, it's a drop in the ocean. And I saw a neat presentation by a company that was analyzing how chemicals bind to each other using approximations with deep learning models rather than solving it numerically. And that was super cool, cutting down the time from imagining a drug to from 4 months to 1 week. That's real money savings, and not only that, that's revolutionizing enough that it can sort of change the way you operate as a business. Which one of the two should you be focusing on? Are they mutually exclusive, or is there like a ramp-up period, starting with the small things and then going on to the ivory tower? Because I feel like the big companies, they can afford to spend 10% on research. If they can't afford it, who can?
Yeah, so I think you should do both. That's my opinion, because you learn a lot when you do the practicing. However, to get the real impact, you need to consider the big picture, so that end goal again. So we've got a couple of customers, we got Airbus, for example, who've been cutting down the time it takes for them to capture the data on their test flights with sensors to the time they can analyze it and then get on to the next flight. There's a huge amounts of money in that. Or cost savings like NHS in the UK, National Health Services, where they could, with the help of the platform, detect fraudulent behaviors actually from doctors out there who were sending in reports on them having had a number of patients which was just basically fake.
Right.
That is, that's is more than €1 billion in a very short period of time. Those are the huge cases, both in commercial to earn more money, and then in things like public sector to save money. Yeah. So, but then you can look at it at a very small scale. With one example, where we're working with people working on saving gorillas out there, basically, and they need some small things. They need to be connected and do quick analysis. They just need the ability to go from pen and paper to something else, and to do something around that. It's typically a bit easier, but the impact is very big, but not maybe on a monetary perspective, but from a planetary perspective. There are different aspects of this.
What's interesting about what you're saying is that that's a central part of their operation, right? It's not a varnish on the edge. If that's what they're doing, saving the gorillas or whatever it is, and that affects that central activity, that's a pretty meaningful transformation.
Yeah.
I think one question that I've been struggling with, and that I think a lot of people struggle with, is we're expecting business decision makers to invest in these technologies and take the time to learn about what's possible, but they maybe don't know what's possible.
No.
So you have a bit of a chicken and egg problem. They know that AI is important. They know that analytics is important. Where should they start to educate themselves?
We have also noticed this at Microsoft, of course. We can see that tech people are really embracing the new technology, of course, trying into that. So we have invested in a AI business school together with INSEAD to make the business people aware of where the world is heading and how they can be educated, being informed, knowing what decisions do they need to take. And I mean, there is a lot to consider. You need to think of the technical platform, you need to rethink your processes, you need to have a board that chooses where do we start and what is really meaningful to us, and continuously having a discussion around what is the AI bringing to our business. So that's where we have started. We have also having a book release. What do we foresee in the coming 10 years? Where is the world heading? Because when we have implemented all these kind of machine learning that will give us new results, I mean, we don't know yet what the world's going to be like in 10 years, but at least we can start to look back in the history, what happened when we got the car, the horse, no one was using the horse anymore, and that you could foresee. But in that space, we saw that marketing had to act differently, because when you were passing by in the speed of a horse, a big sign, when you were passing by in a car, you had to figure out logos. So that's why we have logos all over our companies, because you were passing by in 50 kilometers. And I mean, things like that we can't foresee now. But I mean, at least we know from the history that certain things we are aware of that's going to be different. The work that we're doing today will not be the same tomorrow.
The things that catalyzed the Industrial Revolution and created advances in manufacturing and cars and that kind of thing, they're fairly easy to conceptualize. You can understand something that pulls harder, that's easy to understand. You can understand a belt and that kind of thing. But a lot of these ideas are not always super easy to understand. What's reasonable to expect that a machine learning model can do and that kind of thing. So it's fairly undeniable that this is a very technology-driven revolution, not just a materials-driven revolution or a communication or something like that. Is it important that the C-level people start studying algebra and that kind of thing? Or what do they need to do in order to be able to be informed to make the right kinds of decisions nowadays?
I think the good news is in the tool space here. There's a new tool or a new era of tools called citizen data science, data analytics, which means that business decision maker, the business side, can ask questions, quite relative advanced questions. Can you categorize customers' likelihood to buy, for instance, which is quite advanced question to ask. But the tools can bring that question to the business user, and the tools itself creates the algorithms and be run in the backend systems towards the business processes. And this will be, I would say, a starting point for the real data scientists, because the bright ideas, the guys meeting the customers are on the business side. They're not usually the IT people. The IT people are more focused on the technology side. So if you can get the business people that meet the customers, see the markets, meet the challenges they have, if they can do the first piece, so to speak, then the data scientists can utilize that and make it more advanced, or maybe get a better understanding on their own business. I think that's a very good start to get into it there. Because
putting more data in their hands?
The data is another third question as well. You need to have a lot of data, of course. If you take the pitfalls, why do it fails? Gartner says that 50% of all machine learning initiatives never enters production.
No.
Why is that? My expectation, or my experience, and what I've seen is data quality, data. The data scientists need data. Data. That's all they're requesting, and the quality itself. So getting a new platform for accessing data to utilize what I usually told citizen analytics tools, where the business can meet the data, that will bring magic. And that we have a new science platform to just cope with that question.
I think that's a very nice example that we need a lot of data, except I disagree that we need a lot of data. I think this is perhaps an example of what I'm talking about. I saw a very nice presentation only a few days ago of a lady doctor that had worked for 30 years in pediatrics, and she had seen very many different kinds of problems, and some of them are very rare, and some are so rare that she has never seen them personally, even though she knows that they exist. And the thing that's very cool is they had trained machine learning models to look at a baby's face and detect many of these diseases that you can see when they're born from subtle cues in the faces. And some of these pictures that the model was trained on, there were only 140 pictures total from across the world. And so she hadn't seen them, obviously. But the nice thing about deep learning compared to parametric methods and tree methods is that you need less data and not more data. And so the machine learning model could, because it understood what an eyeball is and what a face is and how a frown looks like, it could, with only 140 pictures, get 98% accuracy on diagnosing that particular disease. And without that knowledge, that doctor might not even have been able to conceive that this is something we can put into production now and start helping us making diagnoses for these babies. So my question is, without that knowledge, there's no way she could have expressed, oh, I want you to build this system for me, because she didn't even know it was possible to build that kind of a system. So are these the types of conversations that we should be having first and foremost with decision makers? Inspirational discussions and saying, did you know that it was possible? You're working in retail and logistics.
Yeah.
Did you know it was possible to do this and that
Yeah.
with our technology? What's your take on that?
Absolutely. So I think maybe I was actually talking to a customer here at the booth a few hours ago, and I was just reflecting on something because I was making a reference to a case that we have done in another place of the world, which was very relevant to where this customer was going and a challenge they saw ahead of them. So one of my best contributions I make when I go see customers is sort of cross-fertilizing what I know and what I have seen and what our customers are doing to other customers. And sometimes that doesn't have to do with vendors or competitors or anything. It's just good ideas that can be brought to the table in intelligent discussions like the one you mentioned. They are needed because, as you say, many organizations don't know what they can get. And that education, Hillevi, that you mentioned as well, I think there are great initiatives to get the education out there. What is the art of the possible? Because many business leaders are stressed by the fact that they need to do something. And then you see, McKinsey let out a report some time ago, which expressed that in the end of next decade, so it's like 10 years away, there's going to be a $13 trillion effect on the global economy by machine learning and AI. And you read that and you see that, and you know,
It's a big
basically
number.
the ones who don't go there, yeah, they're going to have big problems with their cash flow. That's what it says, you know, and it's McKinsey. So, okay, what do I do? But then basically, where do we start? And I guess it's a recurring question.
That's
Good
interesting that
example
you
is
said
good.
that people feel stressed. Is that something that you feel that when you go to customers that they say, yeah, I know I should be doing this, but I'm not sure where to start?
Yes, we have that discussions all the time. I mean, the large companies.
Or do people say, yeah, I know what to do. You don't have to tell me.
No, they don't. They don't.
They don't say that.
No, they don't.
Okay.
They need my architects there
Okay.
to have the discussions. But I mean, we need to work on both sides. We need to work with IT to get them up to speed, to be ready to deliver on this. And you need to work with the business side as well to make sure that they are skilled up and are ready to take the decision, because someone has to do that. And we are approaching the market with cognitive services, making it easy for you to bring in AI in your already made applications or your process for image recognition and other types of already made machine learning models that are trained already. And you were touching on that as well, because that's a way to start easy. I mean, time to market is very short.
To add to that, it's hard to start. Yes, it is. I think, as you mentioned, the external factors on the market is that, but usually you have within your organization, you have a lot of big ideas, interesting ideas. People that meet the customers, they see the challenges. You have the IT that see the back end and et cetera, et cetera. We have running something called the design thinking workshop, which when you bring together a lot of people from different aspects of your own organization, it could be the customers, it could be some, external partners, for instance, and you start really create a room to see where is the challenges, what can we do, and then do short prototypes to solve this question. And that's usually a very good starter to create new business services and new challenges and connecting to the real challenge we're facing. And usually you have the experience already within the organization, but you seldom talk with each other, so to speak.
Yes,
The
you need to get them connected.
Exactly.
And we have
usually we are just a facilitator in that discussion, and the customers start to discuss like we do now. So I think people like to talk.
Yes.
Well, with regards to data literacy, the question is, I asked you, do the customers feel like they already know? And you said no. So I can imagine they would say that with respect to the technology, because it can be a bit daunting, but do they feel confident that they know what they need to do business-wise as well?
No, I would say, I mean, there is discussions, and it's starting to raise up in the organization. Many customers that we are involved in, IT have started to do some, at least, trials, proof of concept pilots, and the question starts to rise in the organization. We see new roles come in as the CDO, and I see that the discussion is slowly moving up in the hierarchies. But if they really know what to use AI for, do they have a long-term plan? I would say not many.
Yeah.
I mean, it's starting to form, it's on the board's table, but I think we need to keep on driving the inspiration motion to get to the decision makers as well.
On my last panel here, I had a member from the Aldo Group, that's a retailer, they make shoes and other fashion items, and he was a driving force in the digitalization and data transformation of the company. And it's fairly top of mind for retailers because they're competing with e-tailers right now, which is a fairly different business model. It's not the distribution through the stores that's the main business model and the business advantage anymore. They have to offer other products, other services, and that kind of thing. What are the touch points you guys usually are able to enter in at these companies? So he's up at the top and they have buy-in from the leadership. Yeah, we have to change, we know. E-tail is number one. Other business models are also there.
Yes.
And so technology does play a big role in the company's strategy, whereas I imagine 15 years ago it might not have had as big a part.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge, I would say, in retail, generally speaking, is the multi-channels. challenge. The e-commerce you mentioned, you have the stores. If you talk fashion, there's one thing, the fast fashion, which is they have a lot of new products. They have different channels. The channels has to be in sync. This has huge demands on systems. How to integrate the real-time system to what products do you still have? That's the top of my mind. If you take the grocery, that's more focused on not really the e-commerce, but it's still there. But it could be the customer facing. What product should I bring to what customer? What customer do we have? What do they expect from us as a supplier in that sense? So become more customer facing, real-time, multi-channel. I would say that is the biggest challenge they're facing.
Yeah, and I would say in terms of where in the organization the discussion is, I think it's a bit different across industries. Some industries are forced to become very advanced now because they're under heavy pressure.
Yeah.
And this $13 trillion thing, it's going to put that pressure on, and it's going to be different in different industries. Telco is another industry, so we've got an Oracle One customer, Telefonica. They've done a kind of a cool thing. They've looked at how can they personalize the ads in front of broadband TV customers based on who's in front of the TV right now. So, and that kind of thing, for them, the business case around that, it doesn't stop with, making sure they have a good hit rate there. Basically, it's the ad sales in the back of that, because they can go to their advertisers and say, we can be so precise, and you can get this. They can have a dialogue around that. So that's an industry where you see a lot of focus on it. Then there are other industries, and also if you look into public sector, that realize they need to do something, but they are much further away. From a leadership perspective. In some, they are absolutely there. We talked about the NHS as one example there, but I think it differs a bit across both industries and even parts of the world right now. But I think ultimately, the absolute majority is this is where it's going quite quickly right now. I think it's starting to happen right now in the Nordics, at least what I see.
Right.
Yes. And when you were mentioning public sector, the healthcare sector, I think that's a place where we really need to make sure that the machine learning can land, because there is so many really great applications out there to diagnose cancer a lot earlier than we can do with the resources like a doctor looking through all the scanning pictures. So that's a place I think that we could really make a difference for ourselves going forward.
I take it then that the consensus is that a lot of companies do understand that there is pressure to change, that they don't necessarily know where to start with regards to the technology, but also that it's fairly common that they don't know always the best business transformations to begin with either.
Yeah.
And so that they wouldn't be alone if anybody were to feel that way right now. So perhaps in conclusion, data literacy would be the best place to start to understand what is possible in order to start making decisions and accelerating that transformation.
And start somewhere at least.
Yeah.
Take a stand, take a decision.
Make a decision.
Yeah.
Make a decision.
Yeah, I think to build on what both of you said, start in a way which you can manage. So, and sometimes, right now we see a lot of hype around data science, and we see examples of where you think that the ultimate goal is the topmost optimized 100% accuracy on something or result. But sometimes just making it better than today is enough. And that creates the inspiration, the energy, the ROI for the next one. So things like maybe, a basket analysis is not sexy anymore, but it's a good starting point for doing the next thing.
Well, the nice thing is that if you imagine that it could potentially be something that increases your revenue by 200%, it's okay that it starts by increasing it with 10% and then you keep improving it. And that can be a small step that you iterate over.
Absolutely.
Thank you everybody for attending this panel, and
Thanks a
we
lot.
will be with you shortly again.